Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before I start getting into the happenings of the last few days, I want to check in with my reading. So I am still chugging along through this monstrosity, which is Kristin Lavransdatter by Sigrid Undset. So I'm currently on book 2. And compared to book 1, book 2 is a lot slower. We're kind of plateauing. In the first book, there's a lot of kind of intensity and romance and pre-arranged marriages and things that don't go according to plan. And you have Kristin in this kind of youthful stage of her life where she makes mistakes, she says the wrong things, she falls in love with someone she probably shouldn't have fallen in love with in the wrong circumstances. And there's this residual guilt that comes from her Christian upbringing of things that she did before being married that kind of have this full hold on her, but nothing's really happening. So it's very slow, but you're dealing with a lot of guilty conscience. You know, the honeymoon phase is kind of over and a lot is happening, but at the same time it's happening very slowly. And a lot of it is almost psychological. So I'm waiting for things to pick up again, but momentarily it's a little bit slow. So I'm kind of like pushing through. I'm hoping things get more interesting as we go. Yeah, but it's definitely a slow burn and it's gonna take me a few more weeks for sure. That said, in January it was my birthday and I did have a few things on my wish list that were books, maybe 2 or 3 things. And then I ended up going on a bit of a walk on my actual birthday day. I took a few hours off work and I went for a walk. I hit up a few bookstores. You will be seeing it later because I did kind of vlog it. I am trying to go on a bit of a book buying ban because I do have a lot of books and I do want to read them and enjoy them and not feel overwhelmed. But Christmas happening so close to my birthday always kind of leads to this influx of books and book buying. I will show you what I did get for my birthday. So my husband got me this book called A Gold Chain, a Wooden Leg, and a Treasure Chest, The True Story of Thomas II by Matthew Frick. This was one of the books on my wish list. I kind of want to get to know each pirate individually as we go, and this is the only book I found on Thomas II. So I added it to the wish list a really long time ago. The next thing that he got me, which was a little bit unexpected, but I don't even know why I put this on my wish list. It's a bit of a commitment. A total of 80 books. It's Penguin. Oh my god, this is heavy. So these are individual short stories from Penguin from different time periods by different authors. Some are repeat authors. Obviously we have some of the same time periods too. Some of it is poetry, like I think the Emily Bronte one is poetry. I don't know where I'm gonna store this. I might just take it to work and just keep it somewhere in my desk or on my desk. And speaking of work, I did get a few gifts from coworkers. So my work bestie gave me this Heather O'Neill book. That's her favorite author. I'm just really excited to give it a go. While this person's not a coworker, he's a library patron and friend. And he visits me often, but he was one of the first people to write about Henry David Thoreau's Commonplace book. We've always bonded over our common love for Henry David Thoreau. And recently, or on my birthday I guess, he gave me these 2 massive volumes of Thoreau's journals. It's very hard to walk around with these. So I'm kind of hoping to keep them in a place where I could sit down and properly give them my undivided attention. And the third thing he gave me was this, a Thoreau Gazetteer. I think I pronounced that correctly. But this is supposed to be the geography of all the locations that Thoreau talks about in his writings, from his book about Maine to Walden to all of the places he's been for both literary and nature kind of trekking. Like for example, Cape Cod is here, so then you have a map and a little picture and some descriptive things. So when I did go to the bookstores on my actual birthday, these were the 2 books I ended up getting. So one of them is called In Search of Dracula, The History of Dracula and Vampires, completely revised by Raymond T. McNally and Radu Florescu. I am going to read any vampire nonfiction book, especially when a Romanian participated in the writing. So I got this. It was on discount by a lot from one of my favorite science fiction and fantasy bookstores in the city. So I sat down with a few vampire books there because they were just on the table. So I think it was like a kismet thing where I was just like taken there by the universe and it wanted me to get this. And the other kind of vintage sci-fi book I got, this was from B&V on the 3rd floor where they have sci-fi and fantasy. I got At the Earth's Core by Edgar Rice Burroughs. But this is kind of like a vintage hardcover. And it's just so cool. I've never seen anything like this in a while, and I just love these so much. They're usually kind of paperbacks when we get the pulpy sci-fi. So this seems pretty cool. And it says an American International release. And it has this cool thing at the back too. It's just very unusual, and I really enjoy Burroughs, so I'm gonna give this one a go. Okay, so now these two books I got technically not on my birthday. They were somewhere between Christmas and my birthday. One of them was from my mother-in-law and one of them was from me. So this is the one I got myself, and this is Toni Morrison, Selected Essays, Speeches, and Meditations, and it's called The Source of Self-Regard. I think Toni Morrison is one of those unique people in our history who is gifted in every single way. Like, she's wise, she's smart, she's creative, she can like tear your heart out and make you love her so much at the same time, and she's got beautiful language. Everything she incorporates in her books is just perfection. So I really want to get to know her a little bit more. I want to read about her thoughts and her opinions on things. I want to spend more time with her nonfiction side. So I really, really am looking forward to this. This was my gift to me. So yeah, really looking forward to this one. And then the other one, which is also kind of in line with lectures and learning. So this is Vladimir Nabokov, Lectures on Russian Literature. Timeless discussions of Chekhov, Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, Turgenev, Gorky, and Gogol. And this book I requested because I still have a very big hangover from reading George Saunders' book, A Swim in the Pond in the Rain. That book was so good that I think about it almost on a daily basis. It has now entered my soul on a cellular level. I can't even explain it. I think about that book almost every day. And when it ended, it was a moment of sadness that I cannot describe. I wanted to start it all over again. I wanted more. I wanted more like it. And I thought, why don't I actually reach out to something like this, which I think is a close second, because Nabokov himself was a professor at Cornell University, and aside from his love for butterflies and writing his own fiction novels, which I've read most of. I took an entire third-year class on Nabokov, so we had to read all of his works, from the Parisian European books that he wrote for the Russian immigrants all the way to the American ones that he wrote while in America in English for the first time. So I was introduced to his work, but I'm curious to hear or to learn about his thoughts on Russian literature and his opinions. What I might do with this one is, instead of reading it from cover to cover, I think I might actually end up reading one of the authors and then supplementing that reading with his essay on that author. So this might be one of those long-term investments where I reference my library, which is why I like owning some of these books for the purpose of study. So this will be one of those supplementary readings as I go along. And the last two books were given to me by publishers. I did request these. So the first one is called Moss and Lichen. I don't mind reading about moss and lichen again. I've read Robin Wall Kimmerer's book before on mosses, but this one has a lot of photos, so there's gonna be a lot to see and learn. The other one didn't have as many or any colored ones, that's for sure. And the second book that was sent to me recently is called The Library of Ancient Wisdom, Mesopotamia and the Making of History by Selena Wisnam, which is really funny because her last name is very similar to the word wisdom, which is right above it. We are told that a team of Victorian archaeologists found this grassy hill in Iraq, and underneath it was the library of this Assyrian king. Ashurbanipal, 7th century BCE ruler, and after his death, rivals burned his library to the ground, but the texts, because they were in cuneiform on clay tablets, survived because they were kind of baked and they were preserved by the dry temperature and the climate there, and they were preserved long term. So coming across all of these clay tablets tells us a lot about cuneiform and about writing, but also about this civilization that we're introduced to. And this book is supposed to be a comprehensive nonfiction work about what was found there, what we can learn about the Mesopotamians. I am just so excited to get to this. I just got this in the mail this morning. So I had a pretty interesting week at work. I had to pull out some books that showed examples of marginalia, which was really cool. I got a chance to look at some of these for the first time. It's really fun when a professor asks you for a topic that you wouldn't otherwise be exploring on your own. And this happened to me with this art class that came by, and they were studying the Great Exhibition of London from 1851. And this was a completely new to me topic. I had to learn about the Crystal Palace and the way it burned down and all of the items that 14,000 vendors had on display in this Crystal Palace during the Victorian period. And it reminded me of some scenes from Bridgerton, but one of the cool things about the Rare Book Library is that we have examples of the items in color, and we have all of these first edition catalogs from the Great Exhibition. So I got a chance to look through some of these, which are completely unique and mesmerizing, but I also learned so much about the Great Exhibition. I did a lot of research and I watched a lot of YouTube videos to introduce myself to it. Obviously, I don't have to give people a full-on history of this topic. I just show them the items and talk about the books themselves. But I was also kind of forced to learn a little bit about lithographs, because no matter how many times this is explained to me, I cannot wrap my mind around how lithography stone works. And I've asked my coworker to explain it to me so many times, and every time he does, it just sounds like magic. It sounds like magic. I refuse to believe that it's anything but magic. And then we had this really cool workshop recently with a visiting printer from Italy, and he's amazing. Like, some of the cool stuff he does, I took so many photos. But when they left, I got this card deck that's all based on bookish terminology. So every single card has a definition of something to do with book history and print culture kind of things. I can brush up on all my terminology while I'm on lunch break and just flipping through these. Like, it could be so much fun. I just thought it was such a creative idea to have something that's both fun to play with, but also you can brush up on your terms. And this week we also installed a new exhibition on queerness in Victorian literature, so that's really cool. And I'm so excited to kind of read all the descriptions more in depth. I'm learning so much from this one. There's so many topics that are new to me, especially about the art movement and how it integrates with queer history. And with the same person who installed this exhibit, I got a chance to be with him in a podcast. In this podcast episode, I got an opportunity to talk about my library and what I do, some of my job description, and some of the items in our collection. It was so much fun. I was so nervous. I realized that speaking to you here on camera is very different because it's me by myself, and then I get to edit it the way I want to, and if something doesn't turn out right, it's okay. I could just go back and redo it. But when you're a guest on somebody else's platform, it's nerve-wracking because you don't know what they're gonna ask you. You don't know if you're gonna get it right. Sometimes not all the terminology is there. I'm not outright prepared, and you don't get to edit it yourself, you know? There's a lot of ums and ahs that you don't expect to hear afterwards. So it was kind of a different experience. I will link it down below if you're interested in listening to it. It is very niche and very specific, so I completely understand if it doesn't interest you. I just thought I'd share since I mentioned it. But the last thing I want to talk to you about before I go are medieval manuscript fragments. In February, I will be releasing one short every day featuring a different medieval manuscript fragment and telling you very little about it. If you don't know what a medieval manuscript fragment is basically when biblioclasts decided to rip apart entire codices or manuscripts from the past and sell them for parts, like one page at a time. Now in librarianship and a lot of academics too, like they collect all of these things that they find and scan them or digitize them and upload them and try to reconstruct some of these things digitally. And now it's a whole field of study. And I find fragments fascinating, especially medieval ones. So I'm working with this long term. This is like a huge long project that will take me ages. But I figured since February starts with F, it would be fun to incorporate it into the shorts. So if you are interested, every day for February, you will see one fragment short about something to do with a medieval manuscript fragment. So I just thought I'd let you know it's coming if it interests you at all. So I think I'm going to wrap this up now, and I will just have to see you in a future video very soon. Bye.